Even the god of thunder can't escape the chaos of a tourist trap. Chris Hemsworth had done it all, had played the mighty Thor in the Marvel Universe, traveled to exotic locations, and faced down enemies of all sizes with his hammer, Mjolnir. But nothing prepared him for the day when even his superhero persona couldn't save him from a hilarious, humbling mix-up in the streets of Sydney. It all started on a bright Saturday morning during a rare day off while filming for his latest movie. Chris had decided to step out in his off-duty attire, relatively low-key by most celebrity standards. A simple t-shirt, jeans, and of course his signature tousled hair, which, in some angles, could easily be mistaken for Thor's wild mane. The plan. Chris wasn't out for anything dramatic. He wasn't there to make headlines, nor was he planning on being photographed. It was supposed to be a peaceful, anonymous stroll around the city. But knowing the crowds of tourists flocking to Sydney's Darling Harbour that day, Chris had a brilliant idea. He would prank a few unsuspecting fans by pretending to be Thor. A little fun, a little harmless chaos. Now, if there's one thing you learn about Chris Hemsworth, it's that he has a wicked sense of humor. The man is known for his playful pranks on set, often tricking co-stars or causing laughter on social media with his witty one-liners. But this time, he was stepping into the shoes of his alter ego, Thor. Or at least, he thought he was. The encounter. As Chris walked through the harbor, he couldn't help but notice the gleam in people's eyes. They stared, not because they recognized him immediately. No, it wasn't quite like that. It was more of a wait, isn't that type of glance. It wasn't until he passed a group of tourists from the United States that things started to get, well, interesting. One of the tourists, a middle-aged man, pointed at Chris and yelled, "Oh my God, is that Thor?" Chris, always ready to play along, puffed out his chest, gave his best God of Thunder look, and nodded confidently. "I am Thor, son of Odin," he said in his deepest, most dramatic voice, striking an over-the-top pose. The tourists gasped in awe and immediately began taking photos. But then, things took a turn. The mix-up. The tourists weren't the only ones who had caught on to Chris' little performance. A local street vendor nearby overheard the scene, and seeing the attention Chris was drawing, he jumped in, shouting with excitement, "Yo, it's Thor. You should take a selfie with him." The crowd began to swell, thinking that a celebrity appearance was happening. Chris was still going with the flow, posing and flexing his muscles, trying to channel his Thor persona. But then, a middle-aged woman in the crowd raised her hand and asked, "Excuse me, are you from New Zealand?" Chris froze. The confusion deepens. Now, in case you didn't know, Chris Hemsworth is famously Australian. He's always proudly worn his Aussie roots, even joking about how he's technically not even from Asgard. So, hearing someone mistake him for a New Zealander, well, that was one thing. But hearing it from someone who clearly had no idea who he was, that was something else entirely. He blinked, then let out a soft laugh. "No, I'm Australian," he replied with a grin, trying to break the tension. But the woman wasn't convinced. "Oh, you must be mistaken. Thor's from New Zealand, right?" Chris paused. He was too deep into the prank now to back out. "Sure," he said, winking. "Why not?" But the confusion was growing. More tourists were starting to gather, and they all assumed that this Thor guy was just another local celebrity who was too humble to admit he was famous. That's when things really started to get chaotic. The full-scale tourist frenzy. It wasn't long before someone took out their phone and posted on Instagram, claiming they'd seen Thor walking through Darling Harbour. The caption was innocent enough. "Found Thor at Darling Harbour. # Marvel, #superstar." Within minutes, the post went viral. Other tourists, realizing that the man they'd seen was being called Thor, flocked to the area. Some came running, others rolled up in rickshaws or on bicycles. Everyone wanted a photo with the so-called God of Thunder. Chris, completely unprepared for this viral frenzy, stood there grinning awkwardly. People wanted selfies, autographs, even to give him a hug. But no one truly recognized him for who he was. To make matters worse, a group of young fans, clearly excited to meet Thor, asked, "Wait, when's the next Avengers movie coming out?" Chris scratched his head. "Well, I can't say much, but, Next year, maybe? The truth was, there was no next Avengers movie coming out anytime soon. But again, Chris was playing the part, just trying to keep the energy light and fun. But as the crowd grew larger and wilder, it became clear that the prank had spiraled out of control. One kid handed Chris a plastic hammer, hoping he would smite the crowd with it, while another tried to start a chant, Thor, Thor, Thor. Chris, suddenly realizing how out of hand the situation had gotten, started to back away slowly. Okay, okay, everyone, he said, raising his hands in the air. That's enough fun for one day. I'm not really Thor, guys. Sorry to disappoint you. Just a regular guy, all right? But it was too late. The viral sensation had taken root. The realization. The next day, Chris checked his phone to find out that he had become a trending topic. He wasn't trending as himself. No, he was trending as Thor, the tourist attraction. His Instagram was filled with dozens of messages, tagged photos, and video clips of people meeting him and thinking they had somehow encountered an Asgardian legend. It wasn't until a news outlet picked up the story that Chris realized just how big this had gotten. They had done a whole feature on Thor's surprise visit to Sydney's tourist hotspots, complete with blurry photos of Chris striking poses with fans. Chris just couldn't stop laughing at how ridiculous it all was. What happened next? Of course, Chris couldn't resist the urge to play into it a little. He posted a video on his social media a few days later, holding up his phone to show the craziness that had ensued. Okay, so this happened, he said, laughing. I guess Thor just can't go anywhere without causing a bit of chaos. Sorry, folks, I'm actually not from New Zealand and am definitely not that famous. But the fun didn't stop there. Chris turned the experience into a hilarious story he told on talk shows, during interviews, and even at family gatherings. Soon enough, his fans were in on the joke, and he was laughing alongside them, embracing the fact that sometimes even the mighty Thor can get a little lost in the whirlwind of everyday life. And so, the tourist trap incident turned into one of Chris Hemsworth's favorite go-to stories. The time he went for a quiet walk and accidentally became Thor the tourist attraction. If you enjoyed this hilarious story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Follow for more behind-the-scenes celebrity tales and legendary mix-ups that you won't want to miss. Got any funny celebrity stories of your own? Drop them in the comments below and let's keep the laughs rolling.